All right, guys, the interior of this is really simple to get out. It's pretty common in all of them. You have a lever down here in the front of the passenger seat. Over here in the driver's seat, you just lift that up, lift up, pull forward, and the seats come right out. Same thing over here at the passenger seat. Pull the lever up, lift forward, pull out, and just go on and set it off to the side. Center console, flip the parking brake up. There's nothing blocking it in the way. You just pull straight up and it comes straight out. These are very, very similar to, you know, your Yamaha Rhinos, the Cub Cadets. They're all the Linhai HiSUNs. They're almost all of them are pretty similar. You can see this one here is a single cylinder. But we're going to go ahead and pull this clutch cover off. We're going to take a look at the belt and take a look at the clutches and see what those look like. Like I said, it bogs down. You can give it a lot of gas and the high RPMs do go up. But that sounds like a belt slipping problem to me. So we're going to pull that off on the side over there on the driver's side. And we'll take a look at all that. All right, guys, what we're going to do here, we're going to pull out this cross member here. Makes it a little bit easier to access. And then we're going to pull out all these bolts all the way down and around. And then we're going to pull this cover off, and that'll give us access to look at the belt, look at the clutches. Part of your regular services, when you guys take care of these, this cover should come off, and you guys should blow out the clutches and the belt and check those on a regular basis. Because, you know, they can ingest dirt and water and fluid as it goes down through the charge tube for the air to keep the belts and clutches cool. So always when you guys have a service done or doing service yourself, pop this cover off, take some compressed air, blow it out really good. It'll help the longevity of the clutches and the belts. So we're going to pop that off real quick and get a look at the belts and clutches. All right, you guys can see we got the cover off. We got the primary clutch protector off there. Next, we're going to just check belt deflection. It's a little tight, not too bad, but you can see, turn the light on here for you, that it's pretty dirty down in there. Needs to be cleaned up. But we're going to separate the secondary clutch here, pull the belt off, and we're going to get some measurements on this belt. Make sure it's within tolerance. And we're going to check the sheaves to make sure they're all clean, that there's no issues there on the primary over here and the secondary. What we're going to do, we're just going to insert the bolt on each end here. I believe it's a 6x10, and we're going to screw those in and separate the secondary clutch and pull this belt off. All right, just going to run this bolt in here. You can see it's starting to separate that clutch. Give that belt a little space. Let's see if we can get it to roll off yet. As it goes in, you can see it starts creating, opening this clutch up, dropping the belt down in there. We're going to go a little bit more here. All right, guys, you can see we ran this bolt in right here. It was a 6x10. I got a 10mm head on this. And as it does, it separates this secondary clutch and the belt will loosen up. What you can do, once you get that, you can pretty much just roll it off. Might be easier with two hands, but set it up here and then you can just roll it down and around and come right off the secondary clutch and it rolls right off the primary. And here we go. What we're going to do, we're going to measure this. I believe the service limit is 30mm. So we're going to measure this with a caliper and see where we're at. The belt is definitely looking pretty thin, pretty smooth on the sides here. So let's go measure this thing real quick. All right, guys, you can see I got a little bit of mess over here with my chargers, my GoPro batteries and stuff. But what we're going to do, we're going to measure this belt. Like I said, service limits is about 30mm wide. So we're going to go ahead and bring this guy out. We're going to go ahead and zero it. And then we're going to measure this belt. We're going to measure at the top just to take a look. 31. And we're going to measure down the inside here where it sets. I'm telling you right now, this guy is set at 24.68. That is really, really thin. I'm going to measure in the center. and we are at 28.1. So this belt is wore out. It is past service limits. So we're going to head and order him a belt, and we'll stick that in and see if his slipping and what he says is bogging down. I haven't personally rode it yet, but he says it's bogging down. I think what he means is it doesn't have any power to pull itself up the hill because the belt is slipping. It's thin, it's really hard, and it's really, really smooth. So we're gonna get him a belt, we'll slap that in, and we'll take it for a test drive and see what happens. All right, guys, so we're gonna take a look at this clutch on here before we stick the new belt and all that good stuff back on. I believe I found part of an issue here. There's a one-way bearing that controls this on the inside. Free spin, great. Problem is, every now and then, you get that. It should, when you turn this direction, that should be a constant pull of turning the crank on the motor. There is a wet clutch inside of here with a one-way bearing. So like I said, it should spin freely to the left, but to the right, it should never, ever do that. So I believe what we're going on here is what his issue is that the primary clutch squeezes the belt and the secondary clutch comes apart. You know, that's how they change gear ratio in these things. Instead of changing sprockets, like a sprocket is constantly set to a certain size, and so is the front sprocket, the rear sprocket. These here, it's open to start with in the primary. The secondary is closed, creating a small front sprocket and a large rear sprocket, creating torque. And as it goes faster, this squeezes, creating a larger front, and the rear opens up, creating a smaller, creating your top speed and all that. But like I said, it should spin to the left, no problem. To the right, it should not do that. And that is what some of the issue is sometimes in there. Let's see, and I can get it to catch, and now I can feel it turning on the crank. So we're gonna pop this off, take this bolt off here, clutch should come off, and then we're going to probably take the inner cover off, and we'll check all the components on the inside. Okay, so 24 millimeter nut, turns to the left, you know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. They don't like you using air tools to take them off and on. I don't have the proper clutch holder for this one, unfortunately, so I am going to use my impact. Taking it off, putting it on, you know, you want to hand tighten it, hold it the best place you can, and tighten up the proper torque spec. So, all right, what we got to do here is stick it on there. And she wasn't very tight, you can see that. It does have splines. Here's the outer part of your primary and your sheave. Looks pretty decent, a little pitted, nothing too bad. Bearing on the inside, which are your bushings and stuff, they look pretty good. I'll take that apart here in a little bit, get a look at that. Your inner sleeve looks pretty good here. And then your inner sheave. It's got a little bit of deposit on it, but nothing bad. All that looks really good. I'll take the outer clutch apart and get a look at that. So next thing I'm gonna have to do, like I said, it's gonna be a one-way bearing here. It's not catching all the time. So we're gonna take the secondary clutch off, and then we'll get a look at, then we'll probably have to pull the inner CVT cover off, and then we'll go from there, which we're gonna have to drain the oil and take this off. All right, guys, we got that inner clutch cover off, secondary clutch off, primary clutch off. Next, we have to drain the oil. We're gonna drain it down from the bottom underneath, and we'll crawl underneath there and pop the oil drain bolt out. And then we're gonna take these 8mm 6x10 bolts out of here. I think there's 9 or 12. Let's see, 3, 6, 9. Got 9. And then we'll take a look inside here. We'll pull the drum off, and there should be a one-way bearing on the inside, and there's also a wet clutch on the inside. We'll take a look at the wet clutch also. So I'm gonna go ahead and drain the oil, and I'll pull this cover off, and we'll get into what's on the inside on this drum and check out that one-way bearing in there and see what kind of issues we have. Check this out, guys. I know it might be hard to see. I'll move you to a better light. This is the oil that just came out of this unit. The customer said he changed it not long ago. This is literally all the oil that came out of this unit. That's what I get for not checking the oil on this thing. I trusted him when he said he just changed the oil long ago. not long ago, maybe pretty long ago, and that's pretty ugly looking oil, and that might be 1/4 of a quart. These things take, I believe it's 2 quarts of oil. I'll have to look at the on the 500 again to make sure, but yeah, this is not good at all. So thank goodness that we come across this problem, because it actually might be part of the reason why he's having these issues is because there's no oil to lubricate that one-way bearing, and it finally got hot enough and it just crapped itself. Let's hope it's still together and not pieces around inside there. It feels like it's still together, it's just not operating correctly. So guys, check your oil on a regular basis. At least check it once a week before you go out to ride this thing. I know he uses this for farm use, and you know, it's kind of hard for them to keep up on it because it's a constant get up and go and just go. But something like this could end up in a catastrophic failure of a motor and replacing the whole motor, throwing a rod, spinning a rod bearing, main bearing, something, and you know, you can end up hurting yourself, believe it or not, man. These things, when they go, they can throw pieces, parts of the motor through the crankcases and injure people. So guys, again, check your oil, double check it, and make sure it's right. All right, guys, you see I got that all apart. Here's your drum. Drum doesn't look too bad. It's got a little bit of wear on the inside. Actually, it's got quite a bit of wear on the inside. That is pretty rough. But you see the one-way bearing right here. I'm just go ahead and replace this. I know it's not working properly. Key thing is on this, guys, when you get them, there is an arrow, tells you what direction. When installing this, that means the directional needs to face you when you're putting it into the drum. In the drum, okay? Not on the motor. If you're putting it on the motor, you want the wording and arrow facing towards the motor. But when you're putting it in the drum, you want the wording and the arrow to face you in the clutch drum. Okay, guys? I've seen people install these wrong, and they fire it up, and yes, they run, and all of a sudden they can't figure out why it's kicking and bucking and not ever wanting to get in gear, because the one-way bearing is wrong way. And remember, again, words and arrow, when you're installing into the drum, face you, and if you're going to install on the motor, the letters and the arrow face towards the motor. That would be that direction. All right. I believe his wet clutch looks pretty good. He's still got some good pads on it. It's not too bad at all. I think we're going to leave that alone. Thank goodness the one-way bearing didn't come apart. So what we're going to do, I'm going to order him up a new one-way bearing, and the surface that it mounts on is nice and smooth. They did peen the nut, so that's good. Not very well, but it is peened, so it doesn't come back and off. But I think I'm going to order him a one-way bearing for this, and I'll reinstall that, and a new gasket for the outside. And then when that comes in, guys, we'll get back to the video, and we'll install that and see if that cures our running problem on flat ground uphill, why it doesn't want to pull itself. All right, guys, we got some parts in today finally. Didn't take too long, but we got them in. That's a good thing. I got the clutch drum here. I just want to show you guys something, see if you guys see it on camera here. Like I was saying before, if you could see how much that clutch has wore in to groove this. Really, really bad. Now you're going to get this. It's going to happen no matter what you do. But this is wore pretty bad for the amount of mileage that's on there. Compared to what a brand new one looks like, not a single issue any way, shape, or form. Also, the one-way bearing. I want to show you guys. This is going to be really hard to see on camera though. The top, so every single one of these bearings, this is the bearing that came out of that one-way bearing. The top of every one of these bearings is flattened out. I'll try to line it up here. Like I said, it's going to be really hard to see on camera. I don't know if it's going to focus or not, but the tops of this is completely flattened out, so it was not catching at all. You can definitely see the differences in the ridges all day long compared to the old one to the new one. So we're gonna replace both of those. I'm still waiting on a seal to come in. I didn't realize that. So I might just run up the street to a bearing warehouse and see if they have this seal in stock. It can be used. It doesn't matter what brand, as long as it's got the same ID, OD, and all that other good stuff. See if they actually have this, might actually have this number there in general, but they can usually measure them, double lip, whatever it may be, and get you the same size seal, just a different brand. But, so I'm gonna install everything else, pretty simple. You know, you just slide this over, slide this one over, sets right down on there like that. Got a snap ring. Find out which side's one side sharp, one side's dull. Usually I put the sharp side facing up. It drops down here like this. Grab our snap ring pliers. Make sure it snaps all the way down on the inside, all the way around. We are locked in. This is a little bit loose, so I was surprised to see that. And if I had a new seal, I just slide the new seal down there, a little bit of grease on it, and use my seal driver and knock it down on there, and then reinstall it with the new gasket. So there you go, guys. We're gonna install this today, and hopefully I can find the seal and get this gentleman back on the road. And now this should take care of his pulling problem and all that. I wish I would have recorded to show you guys what the clutch was actually doing when the bearing started to slip. You can see it engage at first, and then as soon as you got the little bit of speed, it disengage and just spin the clutch freely, or I should say spin the drum freely and not spin the clutch with it. The motor would turn, the wet clutch would turn, but the one-way bearing and all that stuff wouldn't catch and wouldn't do it right. So it was a mess. So hopefully we got this thing figured out. All right, guys, so I just got into this primary clutch in this Massimo. And if you ever get a clutch that is packed full of grease, your primary clutch or any grease, the only spot that's allowed to have grease is inside here on these bushings a little bit, okay? This thing is absolutely packed with grease. I don't know where this guy took this to. He said he bought it from another person. They packed this full. This thing should be completely clean and dry inside of here. You don't have to lube up the little sliders and the rollers and stuff in there. They're meant to be clean. It needs to stay dry. This is absolutely insane. I'm gonna be cleaning this thing for a couple hours to get it clean and get it right. I'm at a loss for words. I have never ever seen this on anything. So I'm gonna be cleaning this with some brake clean and stuff, and in my parts washer I have to relube the bushings and stuff on the inside. But you should never, and it's packed full of debris, all types of stuff. Gotta make sure the inside of that clutch is dry. If you get any grease on these sheaves back here, it's just gonna cause major belt slippage. So when I'm done, this thing is gonna look brand new, and he's gonna be very, very happy I went through the primary clutch also. I almost didn't because it all looked pretty good, and I happened to push down and I looked in there and I was like, what is that? I pushed down the pressure plate and it wouldn't move hardly at all. And I'm glad I did that just to double check before I put it back together again. Never have grease like this inside there, guys. That is totally incorrect. If you don't know what you're doing, just stay out of it. Get a hold of somebody that knows what they're doing and talk to them about it and see if they can't get it done for you. All right? All right, guys, here we go. We're back. Finished up cleaning this thing. Now that's what it should look like. And like I said, there'll just be a touch down inside here. Not much at all, just a touch. Cleaned up all the sliders, the little pieces that go on the back of the sliders. Little rollers that push open and close the clutch. The cover. And this guy here, everything is all clean. That's what it should look like. It should not be full of grease or anything like that. That's going to cause some pretty big issue. Now we'll take just the slightest little bit, and I will come around this O-ring out here, just so it helps seal it and slides this cover on the outside when I go to screw it back on. And again, guys, if you don't know, ask. That'd be awesome. You know, any of us would be glad to help you out, man. You can get a hold of me or anybody else. Shoot me a message. Leave me a comment on the video or something, or find me Facebook or whatever, man. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you guys run into any big issues, no matter if it's motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, lawnmowers, weed eaters. If it has a motor, man, you got a question, sometimes cars. I do know a little bit about cars, preferably not. Just give me a holler, guys. I'll be happy to help you. All right, guys. So we got the belt in, and we got the starter solenoid in today. But I just want to show you something here real quick. here's the new belt, here's the old belt. Okay, when I was talking about nice and slick on the side, I was more talking about how it's glazed. And it's also really thin compared to the new one. I did have the measurements down. I just don't remember where I put them at. I'll just show you a quick comparison here. If you guys can see this, on the top part of the belt, I don't know if you guys, try to get this lined up so you can see, but right there, you can see down here, right here, that's how much that belt is actually gone. Let me line that back up. On the top side. Now, that doesn't include what's missing down here on the inside, the width. It's a big, big difference. So that should definitely help it with slippage and having to, you know, give it a million tons of gas trying to get it to go anywhere. The motor won't rev up so high. So easy install, just the opposite of taking it off. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna throw it around the primary clutch. Oh, and they are directional, guys, so make sure we got this facing the right direction. This one should be, if I'm not mistaken, writing should be kind of reversed because the engine actually turns, instead of the primary being on the front side, actually the primary clutch is on the back side. So we'll just slide it over like this. We'll turn it. And there we go. Now we'll just take out that bolt I used for the separation of the secondary clutch. Nice and slow. Take it out nice and easy. Take a few seconds here, and the secondary clutch will start to close up. So what we're also going to do, we're going to take the throttle body off today. We're going to clean it, check the IEC motor, the throttle position sensor, the TPS sensor on it. I looked down the intake track. The intake track into the motor and the valves are super clean. So I'm really happy to see that. I was really worried about a lot of dirt being in there from the air cleaner being off, but definitely throttle body is really, really dirty, full of just mud and dirt and everything. So safe practice, guys. Preventive maintenance, name of the game. Always check your air filters, clean them on a regular basis, check your oil, and have these things serviced, have the valves adjusted, have the clutches checked, and all that. So I'm just gonna kind of spin them a little bit here, get the secondary clutch to kind of close back up. You can see it slowly closing on the belt here, getting tighter. The belt is sitting a little low in it right now, but when I start it and run it, the belt should come up a little bit. The secondary clutch was pretty wide open when I set the belt down in there. So basically, guys, there's the belt installed on it. Usually you want the ribs of the top part of the belt to be sticking out just about to where you can see the threads running through it, the white line right here. Usually sticks out of the top. Like I said, I had this thing separated pretty far apart. And it should adjust itself up once it starts running. Shouldn't be an issue there at all. All right, so we've got the clutches back installed. I've got the new belt on. I want to show you something. You can see how clean this is, but I want to show you something here. Sorry, let me turn my headlamp off. All right, so you'll turn to the left, which is fine. That's the way it's supposed to freewheel. Turn to the right, it catches right away. That's the crank inside the motor is actually turning. When I spin to the right, to left is supposed to be freewheel. That's just great. Once again, like I said, the one-way bearing was bad. So now, as the motor speeds up and turns, primary clutch will close, secondary clutch will open as it closes the primary, and this thing should get up and go. So I'm going to take her out for a test drive. And like I said, it's all nice and clean in there now. Going to leave the cover off, fire it up, take it for a nice little test drive real quick. And I'm pretty sure this thing is all said and done and cured.